The Debut 50R is the brand new budget-friendly amp from Blackstar. Is it the perfect beginner's amp? Is it a great pedal platform? Is it loud enough to gig with? Let's find out. Before we go further, a disclaimer. Blackstar sent me the amp, and also they're paying for my time. They are not paying for the words that come out of my mouth. This lovely little thing is a 50-watt 2-channel amp. We've got clean and overdrive, and those two channels share the same 3-band EQ. There's also an ISF knob, which we'll go over in a little bit. That's a Blackstar thing. The amp has 2 reverbs, hall and plate. And then finally, on the top panel, we've got the on-off switch, and we've got a 5-watt or 50-watt mode. So the intention there is that you keep the same sound, but you make it quieter when you put it on 5-watt mode, or louder when you put it on 50. We'll test that in a bit. Right, round on the back, we've got headphone/line-out socket. This is for headphones for a silent practice, or plugging in a jack cable and sending the signal directly from your amp to an audio interface or to a mixing desk. If you do this, it's worth noting that it does mute the internal speaker, so there'll be no sound coming out of the amp if you plug something into that socket. There's also a foot switch socket, which is optional. This does not come with the amp, but I have one from the St. James I have, and you can change the channels with your foot. Pretty useful. What else? Yeah, there's an aux in on the back, so you can plug in your phone or media player and jam along to backing tracks. And it's got an effects loop for time-based effects. It comes in 2 colors. This is the cream one, and there's also a black one. And it costs around 230 euros. Affiliate links below for accurate pricing in your region. If you've come here just to hear what the amp sounds like, then don't worry. In this video, I will play it with a variety of different guitars and a variety of different pedals. I'll also be checking out the line out to make sure that sounds good. But for now, let's focus on the features. Now, this is not a bells and whistles amp. It is not jam-packed full of effects. It focuses more on the basic requirements of your beginner player and your more experienced gigging guitarist that uses pedals to achieve their tones. Firstly, beginner guitar players, new guitarists. Hello, welcome to guitar. It's brilliant. It's very rewarding, and I hope that you stick with it. Hello, also parents of budding new guitar players. I made a list of things that I think a beginner amp should be or have. So I'm going to run through this list and see if the Blackstar Debut 50R ticks all these boxes. Number 1, the amp should be affordable. You don't want to spend too much cash on a first amp in case guitar is not for you. So I think the Blackstar fits that category. Number 2, it should be easy to move around. This is only as big as it needs to be, and it weighs just under 9 kilos, which I'm told is the same weight as your average watermelon. Number 3, it should be simple to use. If you're brand new to the world of guitar amplifiers, then too many knobs, too many options can be a bad thing. This has everything you need and nothing more. It's got 2 channels, it's got reverb, there's no USB, there's no software to upload or firmware to update. It's just a guitar amp. Number 4, every good practice amp should have a quiet or silent mode. This has got headphones and a 5-watt mode, so it ticks both those boxes. Number 5, it should inspire the player to play. It's pretty simple. And I think that comes down to 2 things. First one is looks, and this looks cool. It looks like an amp. It looks like something that is rock and roll. And number 2 is, of course, the sounds, and we'll check those out in a little bit. And finally, ideally, a first amp would last you from your first ever practice session with a guitar through to your first practice session with a band and possibly a first show, which means it needs to be loud. How loud is it? I took this amp to my band practice a few weeks ago, and we tested it with my very loud drummer. I recorded that on the Zoom H4n recorder. It was placed a few meters away from the front of the stage where the rest of the band was standing, and I told HP not to hold back on the drums, and you could definitely hear my guitar at gig volume. But that was the overdrive channel. What about the clean? So that was the first song that came to mind that we could play quite simply without any practice. So apologies if that's too far dad rock for you, or even further back than dad rock, whatever that is. Granddad rock, I guess. Great-grandfather rock. Anyway, it did stay clean, but that was the maximum volume that it would stay clean at. Any more, and that clean channel started to drive, which was actually quite pleasant, but not what I was trying to achieve at the time. So yes, it does clean, but not super clean. There's a, dare I say, tube-like drive on the clean channel. Yeah. So, in short, yes, the Blackstar Debut 50R is ready for stage. It's suitable for most gig situations, and we were not holding back. We were not trying to play quiet so the amp could be heard. We were playing at gig volume, which is pretty loud. But pretty loud isn't everything. It also needs to sound good. In case you don't know by now, this is not a tube amp, but neither is it a digital modeling amp. It's an all-analog amp, and Blackstar are leaning quite heavily into this. It's probably their main marketing thing. They even said it's a no-fuss, all-analog alternative to entry-level digital modeling amplifiers. Pretty much putting themselves directly up against the Katana 50 from Boss, which I'm not going to test in this video, but I will do in the future. So subscribe and you'll see that video. Blackstar also say that the Debut 50's MOSFET preamp design creates an authentic, accurate, valve-like tone. Now, if all that meant nothing to you, it doesn't matter, because it's mostly marketing. There's only one thing to talk about, and that is, does it sound good? I think that's a great lead tone, and don't forget this amp is just over 200 euros. So that's basically a great overdrive pedal with an amp. It's brilliant. Right, the gain. Let's sweep the gain and find out if we can get some low gain stuff, some mid gain stuff, and some really chuggy high gain stuff. Right, let's do a little loop down here. That's a lot of gain. That's really hot-rodded British amp. I'm not too sure about that. It's rather gritty. I think this amp excels on the overdrive when it's in the seriously hot-rodded gain stuff. I think this gain level is a little bit weak. So if I was going to do low gain or mid gain drive, I would have to use a pedal on the clean channel. Which brings us to the clean channel. Let's try the clean channel. dynamic, it's touch sensitive. I've played a few solid-state cleanish amps recently. I played the Vox Super Beetle and the JC40 from Roland, which is another level of both price and just standards. But I think the JC40 is probably 4 times almost as expensive as this. And that comes close. But you hear it's not quite clean. That's on the wonk. It's not quite clean. There's a grit there. Let's try a Strat and then we'll put some pedals through it. That might be a bit ice picky for some. Let's turn that clean, what's it called? Bright channel off. I prefer it on, but let's take that treble down a bit. I like that. That's a great Stratty sound. Let's try the 4th position. Let's try 3rd. There's some great sounds in that. All right, clean. I'm convinced by the clean sounding great with a Strat. I'm convinced by the overdrive sounding great with a Les Paul humbucker guitar. Now let's try some pedals with it. First up, the Motherload from Crazy Tube Circuits. That's brilliant. I mean, from that clean. That is a fantastic sound. That takes that pedal superbly. However, the Motherload is more expensive than the amp currently. So that pedal, as great as it is going to set you back more money than an amp that makes it loud. So let's try some more affordable pedals with the Debut 50R. Let's go with this, the Moskai Silver Horse, which is about 20 bucks. So a low gain clon style pedal sounds great. Let's try something a bit more chuggy. Let's do the Magus Pro from TC Electronic. why I dropped it. So if you need more gain, you're going to need pedals, but you shouldn't have to spend much more money on pedals. That TC is under 100. I don't know how much exactly, but you could put it as this way. It's almost half the price of the amp, I think. Links in the description. One more. I wasn't happy with the low gainy blues breakery overdrive of this. So let's try and get a Marshall Plexitone. Let's try this overdrive from K-Line, which is a King of Tone clone. Let's turn the bright switch off a little bit. That's more it. That's kind of lower gain, but still drivey. That's what I was looking for, that pushed, clean tone, or just, you know, overdriven, a kind of almost tweedy, blues breakery kind of plexi thing. That style. That doesn't do it on its own, but it does do it with cheap pedals. So, yeah. I also didn't notice that I kind of forgot I was just playing with pedals. I forgot that I was playing through such a cheap amp. Cheap sounds nasty. Affordable. Low-priced. Budget-friendly. Yeah, that takes pedals extremely well. Blackstar, well done. Let's put something in the effects loop. I haven't tested the effects loop. Keeping it cheap, let's put this K-Line delay reverb thing through it. See what that sounds like. Let's turn that reverb off on the amp, and I'm playing the Squier Bullet Mustang, which I modded slightly, but it cost about 120 euros, so about half the price of the amp, because I've been playing really, well, not really expensive, but expensive-er guitars so far. So that's clean. Little bitey though. This amp is quite bitey on that clean channel. Let's put some delay on. Okay, it does delay. I mean, it's in the effects return. Effects loop, which means that it's coming after the preamp, so I can change between the clean channel and the overdrive channel, and the delays will be after the overdrive. Hello? 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 So that's a cheap delay. I don't know in fact how much this costs, but it's affordable. And then we've got an affordable reverb. I wonder how good the emulated speaker out is. Let's test it. I'll record something directly into my audio interface with a guitar, and then I'll reamp that through the Blackstar. And the first sound sample you'll hear will be the SM57, and then I'll reamp it again with exactly the same guitar playing, and you'll hear it through the emulated speaker out. So this is what it would sound like if you sent a line out to your PA system or audio interface, or if you plugged headphones in to the Debut 50R. So I had to listen back to that, and I didn't really expect a €230 amp to have a high quality line out like it was a Quad Cortex or a Helix or something like that, or a Kemper. It has a line out with some sort of EQ on it that makes it sound a bit like a speaker. And I think if you further push that EQ in the bass area, maybe cut some of those brittle trebles, it would sound even more usable. €230 and it has a line out with a speaker emulation. It's better that it's there than it isn't there. I think it's usable. The final thing I want to test is the 5-watt mode. We've had it in 50-watt mode so far. How does it sound on the quiet setting? So, I've pushed this up to a volume that is extremely loud in the room. It's almost unbearable, and then I'm going to hit the 5-watt switch and see how that sounds. So, there's no compression or anything on this. There's no EQing. That's straight out the SM57 into the audio recorder and into your ears via the internet. Clean. Let's do clean. That's 5 watt. Let's try 50 watts. Yeah, so it's still driving at that point. So I'm about, I don't know, 11 o'clock on the volume knob of the clean with humbuckers. It was really loud in 50 watts. I couldn't stick that for very much longer. But in the name of science, you're welcome. What? Pardon? All right, I think I should review this thing finally. Should you buy it or not? Oh. So, would I recommend the Debut 50R? Well, yes, I would. If you are interested in buying the amp and you've made it this far and you're on the fence, definitely buy it. It is for 220 euros a great amp. It's even a great amp for a bit more than that. The reason it's not more expensive than it is because the Katana 50 from Boss exists. And Blackstar have definitely placed this underneath the Katana 50 in the price range. And quite rightly so, because the Katana 50 comes with more features, like a USB socket that you can record to your computer with and update things, and it's got loads and loads of effects in it. However, it's quite complicated, and the Tone Studio software is rubbish. The Blackstar Debut 50R has none of that. It's just an amp that sounds great and gets you good, loud sounds. Or quiet ones, or silent ones, if you need them. It's taken every pedal well, even. It's taken every guitar well. I prefer the overdrive channel with humbuckers. I like the clean channel with both humbuckers and single coils. It sounded great with the Strat. The effects loop being there is amazing. I don't use effects loop that often, even though I often ask for them. It's great that it's there, because if you're using this for pedals, you're going to want one. In my band, I play a St. James EL34 from Blackstar. I've gone through several amps and I've ended up with that St. James. It is killer. The overdrive channel from this Debut 50R comes from the St. James 6L6. I've only played the 6L6 once. I don't remember if it sounds like that. All you need to know is that that sounds good. Ignore the marketing. They're just trying to get you to trust them by saying it sounds like a more expensive amp. It doesn't matter. It sounds, in my opinion, good to great. The clean channel, likewise, is also based upon the Blackstar HT20 Mark II. Doesn't mean anything. It just means they're trying to get you to trust them because they haven't just created a clean channel from somewhere. I mean, I'm not saying they haven't put the work in, but from our perspective, from the purchaser's perspective, you don't mind. It just has to sound good and be reliable, right? And it does, and it probably is. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I've spent more time with this amp than I have with most amps because I was just so surprised at how good it sounded, and I wanted to try a bunch of pedals and a bunch of guitars through it to give you a kind of definitive, not guide, but a definitive opinion, because at 230 euros and whatever that is in your local currency, there's going to be a lot of you wondering if this is the amp for you. So I'll say it once more. If you're a beginner, that's one of the best amps you can get. If you're a pedal platform kind of player, one of the best amps you can get. If you're in a band, it's just going to be loud enough. It will be loud enough, but only just. So, take that with a pinch of salt and maybe try it out. That's it. You've reached the end of the video, which means you're in the end of the video club, and to prove that you are a member of this prestigious elite, when you leave a comment telling me what you think of the Blackstar Debut 50R. Please also include the phrase, Black Start Me Up. And that let me know that you watched this part, and it will make me giggle because I love reading your comments, and YouTube will thank me because, you know, you've commented on the video and that pushes the video to more people so they get to see it and it's fun and you know, there's a reason for it, all right? There's a reason, an evil reason behind it. Anyway, there are videos over there that you can watch. There's a subscribe button down there, and there are links in the video description if you want to purchase that amp or anything that you saw in the video, because they're all down there written for you, ready to click. I've been Andy, you've been wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.